"Open the door, Brandy, please." The voice on the other side of the apartment door was unmistakable. Brandy Williams froze, her hand tightening around the mug of tea she'd been unable to drink. It was nearly midnight. Only 6 hours earlier, she'd watched Kang Tae-hyun, the most feared Korean mafia boss in Texas, marry her best friend beneath a crystal chandelier surrounded by politicians, billionaires, and crime families from around the world. She had smiled through the ceremony. She had applauded when everyone else applauded. She had hugged her friend and whispered, "I hope he gives you the happiness you deserve." Then she'd quietly gone home. Now, the groom was standing outside her door. "Brandy?" Tae-hyun called again, his usually calm voice strained with emotion. "I know you're awake." Her heart pounded painfully. This couldn't happen. Not tonight. Not after the vows he'd exchanged only hours ago. She slowly unlocked the door. Tae-hyun stood in the hallway wearing the same black wedding tuxedo. His tie was gone, his jacket hung open, his knuckles were bruised, his wedding ring was already missing. Then he looked into her eyes and said the words that would destroy 3 lives forever. "I married the wrong woman." Hello, everyone. If you love emotional mafia romances filled with impossible choices, unforgettable twists, and slow-burning love stories that keep you guessing until the very end, you're in the right place. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another captivating story. Now, let's journey into Austin, Texas, where loyalty, love, and destiny are about to collide. 6 months ago. Austin shimmered beneath a golden spring sunset as expensive sports cars rolled through the private entrance of the Kang estate. Perched high above Lake Austin, the sprawling mansion served as the North American headquarters of the Kang Syndicate, a criminal empire that publicly operated as one of the world's fastest-growing international investment firms. Inside the grand ballroom, dozens of influential guests mingled beneath glittering crystal chandeliers. Brandy Williams adjusted another floral centerpiece before stepping back to admire her work. "You always make everything look beautiful." She turned to find her best friend smiling at her. Vanessa Carter looked breathtaking in a cream-colored designer dress. Her flawless makeup and effortless confidence drew attention the moment she entered a room. Brandy smiled warmly. "It's your engagement party." "It deserves to be perfect." Vanessa looped her arm through Brandy's. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." Brandy laughed. "That's what best friends are for." It was true. For nearly 10 years, Brandy had stood beside Vanessa through every milestone: college, career disappointments, heartbreaks, family celebrations. She never minded staying in the background. Seeing the people she loved happy had always been enough. "You should come meet Tae-hyun," Vanessa grinned excitedly. "I don't think we've officially introduced you." Brandy hesitated. "The famous Kang Tae-hyun?" "The very one." "I'll probably embarrass myself." Vanessa laughed. "You? Never." Before Brandy could protest further, Vanessa gently pulled her across the ballroom. At the far end of the room stood several impeccably dressed men discussing business. One of them immediately caught Brandy's attention. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair swept neatly away from his face. A tailored charcoal suit fit him perfectly. Even standing perfectly still, Kang Tae-hyun commanded the room, not because he was loud, because everyone else instinctively lowered their voices around him. As they approached, he turned. His dark eyes settled first on Vanessa, then on Brandy. Something unreadable flickered across his face. "Congratulations again," Vanessa said, slipping her hand into Tae-hyun's. "I want you to meet my best friend. This is Brandy." Tae-hyun extended his hand. "Miss Williams." His voice was calm, deep, controlled. Brandy shook his hand politely. "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Kang." His handshake was firm, but surprisingly gentle. He noticed the tiny cuts across her fingers, fresh from arranging hundreds of roses herself. "You've been working." She looked down at her hands and smiled. Flowers fight back more than people realize. For the first time that evening, the corner of Taehyun's mouth lifted ever so slightly. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. Vanessa blinked. She had never seen him react that way to anyone. The evening passed quickly. Brandy quietly floated through the ballroom, making sure caterers stayed on schedule, elderly guests were comfortable, and every detail remained flawless. She never noticed someone watching her. Taehyun. He watched as she helped an elderly waiter who had nearly dropped an expensive serving tray. He watched her kneel beside a frightened little girl separated from her parents until they were reunited. He watched her discreetly pay for a delivery driver whose tire had burst outside the estate. She expected nothing in return, no applause, no recognition. She simply helped. Marcus Reed quietly stepped beside Taehyun. "You've been watching Miss Williams for 20 minutes. "I've been observing." Marcus smirked. "There's a difference?" Taehyun ignored the comment. "She notices everyone." Marcus glanced toward Brandy. "People like her are rare. They usually get hurt." Taehyun's gaze remained fixed on Brandy. For reasons he couldn't explain, Marcus's words bothered him. Later that night, Brandy slipped outside to a quiet terrace overlooking the lights of Austin. She finally allowed herself a deep breath. "Escaping already?" She turned. Taehyun stood several feet away. "I didn't realize this terrace belonged to you." "It doesn't." She smiled. "Then we're both trespassing." A brief silence settled between them. Unlike everyone else at the party, Brandy didn't seem intimidated by him. She wasn't trying to impress him or flatter him. She simply treated him like another human being. "You know," she said softly, "my grandmother used to tell me something." "What?" "Duty can build a house," she smiled gently, "but only love makes it a home." Those words settled somewhere deep inside Taehyun's heart. He wasn't sure why, but he knew he wouldn't forget them. A voice interrupted the moment. "Taehyun!" Vanessa approached with several photographers behind her. "There you are!" She slipped her arm around his. "They're ready for engagement pictures." Taehyun nodded politely. Before leaving, he glanced once more at Brandy. She offered an encouraging smile. "Don't keep your fiancé waiting." For reasons he couldn't explain, walking away felt unexpectedly difficult. As the photographers arranged everyone beneath the sparkling lights, Brandy quietly stepped farther into the background, exactly where she believed she belonged. She never noticed the elderly woman watching from across the ballroom, Madame Kong, the true matriarch of the Kong family. The older woman's sharp eyes followed Brandy with quiet interest. Finally, she turned to Marcus. "That young woman." Marcus nodded. "Brandy Williams." Madame Kong smiled knowingly. "My grandson is looking at the wrong bride." Marcus remained silent because he had just realized she was right. 3 weeks passed. The engagement between Kang Taehyun and Vanessa Carter dominated every society magazine in Texas. Business reporters called it the merger of two powerful international dynasties. Political commentators praised it as a strategic alliance that would strengthen legitimate investments across North America. Only those inside the criminal underworld knew the truth. It wasn't a love story. It was a contract. Brandy watched another interview from behind the counter of her family's small bakery in downtown Austin. "Miss Carter and Mr. Kang are expected to marry this summer." She quietly changed the television channel. Her grandmother noticed. "You've done that every morning this week." Brandy smiled faintly. "I'm tired of hearing about billionaires." Her grandmother chuckled. "No." She wiped flour from her hands. "You're tired of pretending something doesn't bother you." Brandy looked down. Nothing had happened between her and Taehyun. Not one inappropriate conversation, not one lingering touch, not one broken promise. Yet, she couldn't stop thinking about that evening on the terrace, or the way he'd listened when she spoke. She quickly pushed the thought away. He was Vanessa's fiancé. That alone should have ended every possibility before it began. Across the city, Tae-hyun sat through another endless meeting. Executives argued over international investments while lawyers finalized merger contracts. He heard every word. He remembered none of them. Instead, his mind replayed a completely different conversation. Duty can build a house, but only love makes it a home. Marcus noticed immediately. You've been distracted for weeks. I'm thinking. No, Marcus smiled knowingly. You're remembering. Tae-hyun closed the file in front of him. I barely know her. Marcus leaned back. Exactly. If a woman you've met once occupies your thoughts this much, imagine what happens if you actually get to know her. Tae-hyun stood. That won't happen. Because of Vanessa? Because I gave my word. Marcus nodded respectfully. He admired that about Tae-hyun. The man never broke his promises, even when they hurt him. 2 days later, Vanessa insisted Brandy accompany her to a charity gala hosted by the Kang Foundation. You've been working too hard. Vanessa smiled while adjusting a diamond necklace. Tonight, you're my guest. Brandy laughed. I don't own anything glamorous enough. Nonsense. An hour later, Brandy arrived wearing a simple black satin gown that she had almost talked herself out of wearing. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't expensive, but it suited her perfectly. When she entered the ballroom, conversation briefly paused. Not because she demanded attention, because she carried herself with quiet confidence. Across the room, Tae-hyun looked up from a conversation with foreign investors. For a brief moment, everything else disappeared. Marcus followed his gaze. I was wondering how long it would take. Tae-hyun didn't answer. He couldn't. Brandy looked beautiful, not because of the dress, because she looked completely comfortable being herself. During dinner, a wealthy businessman accidentally knocked over a glass of red wine. The wine splashed across Brandy's gown. Several guests gasped. The man barely looked up. Oh, my mistake. His dismissive tone filled the table with awkward silence. Before Brandy could respond, Tae-hyun calmly stood. He removed his tailored dinner jacket. Miss Williams, he gently offered it to her. You shouldn't have to spend the evening uncomfortable. Vanessa looked at him, surprised. She had attended dozens of events beside him. He had never shown such spontaneous kindness before. Brandy hesitated. I couldn't possibly. I insist. Their fingers briefly touched as she accepted the jacket. Neither spoke, but everyone noticed, including the leaders of both Mafia families seated nearby. One elderly council member quietly whispered, the chairman is looking at the wrong woman. Later that evening, Brandy escaped onto the balcony overlooking the Colorado River. She needed fresh air. The city lights shimmered below. Footsteps approached. She smiled without turning. I had a feeling you'd find this balcony eventually. Tae-hyun stopped beside her. How? You seem to like quiet places. He laughed softly. You've been observing. She smiled. I've been paying attention. The silence between them felt strangely comfortable. Finally, he asked, why are you always helping everyone? Brandy shrugged. My parents struggled. We survived because strangers showed us kindness. She looked towards the skyline. I decided if life ever became easier, I'd become someone else's stranger. Tae-hyun stared at her. No one in his world talked like that. Power, money, fear, control, those were the languages he understood. Brandy spoke something completely different, compassion. Inside the ballroom, Vanessa searched for her fiancé. A bridesmaid pointed towards the balcony. There. Vanessa smiled, then noticed who stood beside him, Brandy. Neither of them was touching. Neither of them appeared inappropriate. They were simply talking. Yet, Tae-hyun looked more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. For the first time, an uncomfortable feeling settled inside her chest. The following afternoon, Brandy was arranging fresh flowers inside the bakery when the front door opened. She looked up, her eyes widened. "Kang Tae-hyun?" He gave a small nod. "I hope I'm not interrupting." I laughed nervously. "I don't think anyone expected to see you buying pastries." "I'm not." He glanced toward the display case. "I came to thank you." "For what?" "You reminded me there are still good people in the world." She smiled warmly. "You already knew that." "I thought I did." A little girl entered with her father. She accidentally dropped her ice cream and immediately burst into tears. Without hesitation, Brandy walked around the counter. "It's okay." She knelt beside the child. "I think accidents deserve second chances." She disappeared into the kitchen. Moments later, she returned carrying an enormous chocolate cupcake. The little girl stopped crying instantly. Her smile lit up the room. Tae-hyun watched quietly. No cameras, no reporters, no audience. Brandy was exactly the same person when no one was watching. Something inside him shifted. Not admiration, not curiosity, something far more dangerous. That evening, Madame Kang requested a private dinner with her grandson. The elderly woman poured tea before speaking. "Are you happy?" Tae-hyun answered honestly. Happiness wasn't part of the agreement. "It should be." He looked at her. "You accepted grandfather's arranged marriage." She smiled sadly. "No, I survived it." The words caught him off guard. She reached across the table. "I've watched you with Vanessa." Then she added quietly, "And I've watched you with Brandy." His expression remained perfectly calm, but she saw through him. "You've fallen in love with the wrong woman." He immediately stood. "I gave my word." "So did I." She looked out the window. "I kept my promise for 42 years." Her voice carried quiet regret. "I don't want you making the same mistake." As Tae-hyun drove home that night, his phone rang. "Marcus." "Sir?" His tone was urgent. "You need to come to the estate immediately." "What happened?" Marcus hesitated. "The Carter family moved the wedding forward." Tae-hyun frowned. "Why?" Marcus answered quietly. "They believe someone is trying to steal the groom." Marcus's words echoed through the silence inside the car. The Carter family moved the wedding forward. Tae-hyun tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "They believe someone is trying to steal the groom." He looked through the windshield toward the glowing Austin skyline. "They're wrong." Marcus didn't answer immediately. Finally, he said quietly, "Are they?" The call ended. For the first time in years, Kang Tae-hyun wasn't certain of anything. The following morning, the Kang estate buzzed with frantic activity. Florists hurried through the halls, tailors made last-minute adjustments, security teams doubled their patrols. The wedding, originally scheduled for 3 weeks away, would now take place in 48 hours. Every major Mafia family in North America had already accepted the revised invitation. Canceling was no longer an option, neither was postponing it. Across town, Brandy was helping Vanessa organize the final wedding details. Designer gowns covered every chair in the bridal suite. Jewelry sparkled beneath soft lighting. Vanessa stared at herself in the mirror. "Do you think he'll ever love me?" The question caught Brandy completely off guard. She slowly set down the bouquet she had been arranging. "Why would you ask that?" Vanessa gave a sad smile. "Because every woman knows when she's being loved." She looked at her own reflection. "And when she's simply being chosen." Brandy's heart sank. "Tae-hyun respects you." "I didn't ask if he respected me." Silence. Vanessa turned toward her best friend. "Tell me the truth." "What truth?" "Do you think he looks happy?" She wanted to lie. She wanted to protect her friend. Instead, she answered honestly. I think he's trying very hard to do the right thing. Vanessa lowered her eyes. That's what scares me. That afternoon, Tae-hyun unexpectedly arrived at the bakery. Brandy looked up from icing a cake. You shouldn't be here. I know. If anyone sees you, they'll assume the worst. She gently wiped flour from her hands. Then why did you come? He looked around the empty shop. I needed 5 minutes. She laughed softly. 5 minutes for what? To hear someone speak honestly. Brandy folded her arms. You're asking the wrong person. No. He took one slow step closer. I'm asking the only person who has never wanted anything from me. Those words lingered between them. Brandy looked away. You should go home. I can't. You have a wedding in 2 days. I know. She finally met his eyes. And you made a promise. I know. You owe Vanessa honesty. I know. Then stop standing here. Her voice trembled. Because every extra minute makes this harder. Tae-hyun stared at her. You feel it too. It wasn't a question. Brandy closed her eyes. When she opened them again, there were tears she refused to let fall. Yes. One word. Quiet. Honest. Painful. That's exactly why you have to leave. He took another step. She immediately stepped back. No. Tae-hyun, no. You deserve someone who chooses you. So does Vanessa. He closed his eyes. For the first time, he realized there was no decision he could make that wouldn't break someone's heart. That evening, Madame Kang requested a private meeting with Brandy. The elderly woman welcomed her into the estate's library. I owe you an apology. Brandy looked confused. For what? I've lived long enough to recognize love when I see it. She sighed. But I was too late. Brandy lowered her head. Please don't say that. You've done nothing wrong. I know. Madame Kang smiled sadly. That's exactly what makes this so tragic. She reached into a drawer and removed a small velvet box. Inside rested an antique jade hairpin. My mother gave it to the woman she believed possessed the strongest heart in our family. She gently closed the box. I want you to have it. Brandy immediately shook her head. I can't accept this. You can. It doesn't belong to me. No, it belongs to the woman willing to walk away from the man she loves because it's the right thing to do. Brandy's composure finally broke. Tears slipped quietly down her cheeks. I never wanted this. I know. I never tried to make him notice me. I know. I would never hurt Vanessa. Madame Kang gently squeezed her hand. I know. The wedding day arrived beneath a brilliant Texas sunrise. Luxury cars stretched for blocks outside Austin's most exclusive cathedral. Inside, hundreds of guests filled the pews. Business leaders, politicians, foreign dignitaries, crime bosses. Everyone waited for history to unfold. Brandy sat quietly near the back, far away from the cameras, exactly where she wanted to be. The music began. Vanessa entered wearing an exquisite white gown. She looked radiant, beautiful, graceful. Tae-hyun stood waiting at the altar. From a distance, they looked like the perfect couple. The ceremony proceeded without interruption. When the officiant asked for the vows, Tae-hyun spoke every word flawlessly. When it was time for the rings, his hands never trembled. When the officiant finally declared them husband and wife, the cathedral erupted in applause. Brandy smiled through tears. She clapped with everyone else, then quietly slipped outside before the reception began. She couldn't bear to watch their first dance. Late that night, the celebration finally ended. Inside the lavish penthouse prepared for the newlyweds, Vanessa stood near the enormous bedroom window. She smiled softly. We finally made it. Tae-hyun stood several feet away, silent. She turned. Aren't you coming? He looked at the wedding ring on his hand, then at her. His voice was calm, respectful, honest. I'm sorry. Her smile faded. I can't do this. The room fell silent. What do you mean? I can't build a marriage on a lie. Vanessa slowly stepped backward. There isn't someone else? He didn't answer. That silence told her everything. Tears filled her eyes. It's Brandy? He closed his eyes. I didn't choose to feel this. You already did. She removed her wedding ring. I knew. His eyes opened. What? I knew weeks ago. She smiled through tears. I kept hoping you'd look at me the way you looked at her. Her voice cracked. But you never did. She gently placed the ring on the table. Go. He stared at her. I'm not angry. I'm just tired of competing with a woman who never entered the race. Taehyun's eyes filled with regret. I'm sorry. So am I. She turned toward the window. Without another word, he walked out. Nearly midnight, Brandy sat alone in her apartment, still wearing the black dress from the wedding. A soft knock echoed through the hallway. Once, twice. Then came a familiar voice. Open the door, Brandy, please. Her heart stopped. Slowly, she opened the door. Taehyun stood there, wearing the same wedding tuxedo. His tie was gone. His jacket hung open. His wedding ring was no longer on his hand. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Finally, he looked into her eyes. I left. Brandy stared at him in disbelief. What have you done? I told her the truth. She shook her head. No, I love you. Tears streamed down Brandy's face. No, you are the woman I should have chosen from the beginning. She closed her eyes in pain. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. You should never have knocked on my door. If this story has you completely hooked so far, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments, if you were Brandy, would you open the door or walk away? I'd love to hear your thoughts. As Brandy struggled to steady her breathing, a black SUV silently pulled up across the street. Inside sat 3 armed men. One lowered a pair of binoculars. The boss just entered her apartment. Another picked up a phone. We're too late. A cold voice answered from the other end. No. A long pause followed. You're right on time. Brandy's apartment fell into complete silence. Neither she nor Taehyun noticed the black SUV parked across the street. The curtains remained open. From inside the vehicle, a camera lens slowly zoomed in. Click, click, click. Photographs captured every second. The groom, still wearing his wedding tuxedo, standing inside another woman's apartment only hours after his wedding. Exactly the scandal someone had been waiting for. Inside the apartment, Brandy finally found her voice. You have to leave. Taehyun didn't move. I can't. You can. She pointed toward the door. And you will. He looked at her with exhausted eyes. I've spent my entire life doing what everyone expected. I finally told the truth. Brandy shook her head. No, you told your truth. You haven't thought about what this does to Vanessa. His expression filled with regret. I have. No. She stepped closer. If you had, you'd have told her before the wedding. Her words landed like a punch. Because she was right. He had been honest, but he had been honest too late. I failed her. Yes. I failed you. Yes. And I almost failed myself. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Brandy walked to the kitchen and poured him a glass of water. You look like you haven't breathed all day. He accepted it quietly. I probably haven't. Across town, Vanessa remained alone inside the luxury penthouse prepared for her honeymoon. Her wedding dress still shimmered beneath the bedroom lights. She hadn't changed. She couldn't. A gentle knock came at the bedroom door. Come in. Madame Kang entered slowly. Without saying a word, she wrapped Vanessa in a warm embrace. For several seconds, Vanessa simply cried. I'm so embarrassed. Madame Kang gently stroked her hair. No, the only person who should feel ashamed tonight is my grandson. Vanessa laughed bitterly. I kept pretending if I loved him enough, he'd eventually love me back. The older woman sighed. My dear, love has never been something that grows because we're patient. Vanessa looked toward the untouched wedding bed. What happens now? You decide. No one else. Meanwhile, Marcus stood inside the estate's private security office. One of his surveillance specialists hurried over. Sir, you need to see this. Several photographs appeared on the monitor. Marcus frowned immediately. Tae-Hyun entering Brandy's apartment, timestamp 11:57 p.m. Another photo, 12:03 a.m. Another, 12:11 a.m. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. Where did these come from? They've already been uploaded. What? The technician enlarged another screen. Anonymous social media accounts, private Mafia forums, encrypted message boards. The photographs were spreading at incredible speed. Marcus immediately grabbed his phone. He dialed Tae-Hyun. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. Inside Brandy's apartment, Tae-Hyun finally looked around. The home was modest, comfortable. Books filled every shelf. Fresh flowers rested by the window. Family photographs covered one wall. Unlike his enormous mansion, every corner felt lived in, peaceful. His eyes stopped on a faded photograph. A younger Brandy stood beside her parents outside a tiny bakery. Everyone was smiling. You built all this? She nodded. My parents started with almost nothing. We nearly lost the bakery twice, but we survived. She smiled softly. They taught me something. What? Having less doesn't mean loving less. He looked around again. For the first time in years, he realized wealth and warmth weren't the same thing. A loud knock suddenly echoed through the apartment. Both of them froze. Another knock, harder this time. Brandy! It was Vanessa. Brandy's face lost all color. Oh no. Tae-Hyun slowly stood. She shouldn't see you here. Brandy whispered urgently. She already knows. The knocking became louder. Brandy, please open the door. Tears filled Brandy's eyes. I can't ignore her. She walked toward the entrance. Tae-Hyun gently caught her wrist. I'll explain. She looked at him. No, this is between friends. She opened the door. Vanessa stood there, wearing the same wedding gown. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. She looked at Brandy first, then past her shoulder, straight at Tae-Hyun. Silence. No shouting, no accusations, just heartbreak. Vanessa let out a slow, trembling breath. So, she whispered, you really came. Brandy immediately shook her head. It's not what you think. Vanessa smiled sadly. I think it's exactly what I already knew. She looked directly at Tae-Hyun. Tell me one thing. He nodded. When did you fall in love with her? He answered honestly. I don't know. Vanessa laughed through tears. I do. Both of them stared at her. It happened the first night you met. She looked toward Brandy. You were arranging flowers. You didn't even realize he couldn't stop watching you. Brandy covered her mouth. Vanessa continued quietly. I noticed. I ignored it. I convinced myself it would disappear. It didn't. Tears rolled freely down her face. I don't hate either of you. I hate that none of us had the courage to stop this before today. No one spoke. Finally, Vanessa reached into her purse. She removed a small velvet jewelry box. She handed it to Brandy. Confused, Brandy slowly opened it. Inside lay an antique jade hairpin Madame Kong had intended as a wedding gift for the Kong family's future daughter-in-law. Brandy immediately tried to return it. I can't. Vanessa gently closed Brandy's fingers around the box. One day, she smiled sadly, when he finally earns you, wear it. Then she looked at Tae-Hyun one last time. If you ever make her cry the way you made me cry tonight, her voice became remarkably steady, you'll discover I'm much more frightening than any Mafia family. For the first time since meeting her, Tae-Hyun bowed deeply. I'm sorry. Vanessa nodded. I know. She turned and quietly walked away. Neither of them tried to stop her. 20 minutes later, Marcus finally reached the apartment building. He rushed upstairs without waiting for the elevator. The moment Brandy opened the door, he walked straight toward Tae-hyun. "We have a serious problem." He handed over a tablet. Tae-hyun's expression hardened. The photographs, thousands of comments, millions of views. Headlines were already spreading across the internet. Kang Mafia heir abandons bride for her best friend. Another notification appeared, then another, then another. Marcus looked grim. This isn't gossip, it's coordinated. Before anyone could respond, a live news broadcast interrupted every screen. The anchor looked directly into the camera. "We're receiving breaking reports that unknown armed groups have begun attacking Carter family businesses across Texas." Brandy frowned. "What?" Marcus's face went pale. "They're making it look like Tae-hyun started a mafia war." At that exact moment, Tae-hyun's encrypted phone rang. Only 3 people possessed that number. He answered immediately. A cold, unfamiliar woman's voice spoke. "Good evening, Chairman Kang." "Who is this?" "You don't know me." A soft laugh echoed through the speaker. "But I've been waiting years for you to fall in love." The call disconnected. Marcus stared at Tae-hyun. "Who was it?" Tae-hyun slowly lowered the phone. "I don't know." He looked toward the dark apartment window. "But whoever she is, she just turned our love story into a battlefield." The apartment was eerily quiet after the phone call ended. No one spoke. Marcus replayed the woman's words in his mind. "I've been waiting years for you to fall in love." He slowly lowered the tablet. "This was never about the wedding." Tae-hyun nodded. "No, it was about making sure I chose Brandy." Brandy felt a chill run through her body. Why would anyone want that? Before Tae-hyun could answer, another notification flashed across Marcus's tablet. Then another. Then another. Businesses belonging to the Carter family, warehouses, investment offices, shipping companies, all under attack. Explosions, armed raids, anonymous threats. Every attack had happened within the last 20 minutes. Marcus looked up. "They're making it appear as though the Kang family declared war immediately after the wedding." Brandy's face turned pale. "But Tae-hyun hasn't ordered anything." "Exactly." Marcus's expression hardened. "Someone else did." Across Austin, inside an abandoned warehouse overlooking the Colorado River, the mysterious woman calmly watched dozens of security monitors. She wore an elegant ivory suit, long black gloves, a silver phoenix brooch rested on her lapel, the same symbol that had appeared in whispered Mafia legends for decades. A lieutenant approached. "The first phase is complete." She smiled. "The Carter family? They believe the Kang syndicate betrayed them. And the Kang Council? They believe Chairman Kang abandoned the alliance for another woman." She slowly stood. "Excellent." The lieutenant hesitated. "May I ask something?" She nodded. "Why not simply kill Brandy?" The woman's smile faded. "Because dead women cannot change history." She looked at a photograph of Brandy. "I need her alive, and I need Kang Tae-hyun willing to destroy the world to protect her." Meanwhile, the Carter estate had become a fortress. Armed guards lined every entrance. Luxury vehicles filled the driveway. Inside the mansion, Vanessa stood beside her father during an emergency family meeting. Council members shouted over one another. "The Kang family has insulted us. They've attacked our businesses. This means war." Vanessa slammed both hands onto the conference table. The room fell silent. "No." Every eye turned toward her. "Tae-hyun didn't order those attacks." One elder frowned. "How could you possibly know?" She looked each of them in the eye. "Because whatever else he may be, he's an honorable man." Her father stared at her in disbelief. "He abandoned you." "Yes." "He humiliated our family." "Yes." "And you're defending him?" Vanessa's voice remained steady. I'm defending the truth. Someone else is using our pain to start a war. For the first time, several council members began questioning what seemed obvious only moments before. Back inside Brandy's apartment, Marcus received an encrypted message. He frowned. It came from one of our undercover agents. He opened the attachment. A surveillance image appeared. The mysterious one, crystal clear. Taehyun's face changed instantly. I know her. Brandy was surprised. You do? He slowly nodded. Her name is Han Se-yun. Marcus blinked. I thought she disappeared years ago. So did everyone else. Brandy frowned. Who is she? Taehyun took a long breath. The daughter, the man who built the Phoenix Society, the most secretive criminal organization in Asia. Marcus added quietly, they don't control territory. They control people, marriages, political alliances, corporate dynasties. Brandy suddenly remembered the silver phoenix brooch, the symbol. Taehyun nodded. They've been manipulating powerful families for generations. Marcus enlarged another surveillance photograph. They've been watching you. Brandy looked closer. Her heart nearly stopped. The photographs weren't recent. Some were years ago. She was leaving the bakery, shopping with her grandmother, volunteering at a children's hospital, celebrating birthdays. Someone had been documenting her life long before she'd ever met Taehyun. I don't understand. Her voice trembled. Why me? No one answered immediately. Finally, Marcus opened another encrypted file. Inside was a birth certificate. Brandy leaned closer, then frowned. My birthday? The date is wrong. Marcus nodded. Because this isn't the birth certificate you've known your whole life. She looked at him. What are you saying? Taehyun slowly sat beside her. I think you were adopted. Silence. Brandy laughed nervously. No, my parents would have told me. Marcus gently shook his head. Maybe they couldn't. He opened another document. Hospital records, closed adoption files, witness statements. One name appeared repeatedly. Grace Williams, Brandy's grandmother. Tears filled Brandy's eyes. My grandmother? Marcus nodded. According to these files, she rescued a newborn baby during a violent attack 29 years ago. Brandy's breathing became uneven. The baby? Marcus looked directly at her. Was you. Everything she believed about herself suddenly felt uncertain. Her childhood, her family, her name, her identity. Taehyun gently reached for her hand. You are still Brandy. She looked at him. You don't know that. I do. How? Because family isn't determined by blood. He smiled softly. It's determined by the people who stay. Tears rolled down her cheeks. My parents stayed. They did. My grandmother stayed. They did. He squeezed her hand. And so will I. A quiet knock interrupted the moment. Marcus immediately drew his weapon. Who is it? A familiar voice answered from the hallway. It's Vanessa. Brandy hurried to open the door. Vanessa entered carrying several folders. I think I found something. She spread old Carter family records across the dining table. My grandfather kept journals. She pointed toward one page. This symbol appears over and over. The silver phoenix. Another page contained a handwritten warning. If the Phoenix Society ever reunites the two bloodlines, every major crime family will fall under one ruler. Brandy frowned. The two bloodlines? Vanessa slowly looked at Brandy, then at Taehyun. I think they always intended the two of you to meet. The room fell silent. Marcus suddenly received another emergency transmission. His face turned white. Taehyun, what now? Marcus turned the screen around. Every member of the Kang Council was gathered inside headquarters. Dozens of armed soldiers surrounded the building. Standing at the entrance, Han Se-yun addressed the cameras. Her voice echoed through the live broadcast. To Chairman Kang. She smiled calmly. You have exactly 1 hour. A long pause followed. Bring me Brandy Williams, or I'll execute every elder in your family. Han Seo-yeon's voice echoed across every television screen in the apartment. Bring me Brandy Williams, or I'll execute every elder in your family. The countdown clock appeared beneath her image. 59:58. 59:57. Marcus immediately muted the broadcast. No. He looked at Tae-yeon. We're not walking into a trap. Brandy quietly stared at the screen. They'll kill them. Marcus answered firmly. They'll kill you, too. They need me alive. They need you until they don't. Silence settled over the room. Finally, Brandy spoke. I'm going. No. Tae-yeon's answer came instantly. She turned toward him. You can't ask innocent people to die for me. I'll never ask you to die for them. They're your family. So are you. The words caught her completely off guard. He stepped closer. I spent too much of my life protecting an empire. His voice softened. I'm choosing the woman I love. Across Austin, inside Kong Global headquarters, the remaining council elders sat under armed guard. Han Seo-yeon calmly poured herself a cup of tea. One elderly council member glared at her. You'll never control this family. She smiled politely. I already have. She gestured toward the live news coverage. Outside the building, hundreds of reporters had gathered. Helicopters circled overhead. Social media had exploded with speculation. The world believed a mafia war had begun because of a love affair, exactly as she'd planned. A lieutenant approached. Chairwoman, our surveillance confirms Chairman Kong hasn't left the apartment. She glanced at the countdown clock. He will. He loves her. People in love always make predictable decisions. Back inside Brandy's apartment, Vanessa suddenly looked up from her grandfather's journals. Wait! Everyone turned toward her. I've been reading this all wrong. She quickly flipped through several worn pages. There, she pointed toward a paragraph written nearly 30 years earlier. Marcus leaned closer. What is it? Vanessa read aloud. The Phoenix Society's greatest weakness has never been violence. It has always been exposure. Their power survives only while they remain invisible. The room fell silent. Tae-yeon slowly smiled. They don't fear bullets. Marcus understood immediately. They fear the truth. Within minutes, the apartment transformed into another command center. Marcus contacted every loyal cybersecurity expert within the Kong organization. Vanessa reached out to trusted members of the Carter family. Brandy gathered every document she had seen since the attacks began: financial records, surveillance files, photographs, secret recordings, hospital records, everything the Phoenix Society had spent decades hiding. Tae-yeon looked at Marcus. Can we broadcast worldwide? Marcus smiled. We don't need a television network anymore. 25 minutes later, every major news outlet in America received an anonymous encrypted file. So did federal investigators, international financial crime agencies, the Texas Attorney General, the FBI, journalists, independent media. Within minutes, screens around the world displayed the same headline: The Phoenix Society, 30 years of manipulating governments, crime families, and billion-dollar empires. Evidence poured across television screens: secret bank accounts, political bribery, illegal marriages arranged for financial gain, corporate assassinations disguised as accidents, video recordings, financial transfers, signed orders. including Han Seo-yan's own voice authorizing the attacks on both the Kong and Carter families. Marcus watched the broadcast spread across every platform. They can't stop it. Inside Kong headquarters, a young lieutenant rushed toward Han Seo-yan. "Chairwoman." She remained calm. "What happened?" "The files. They're everywhere." She frowned. "Take them down." "We can't. Every network has already copied them." Another guard entered. "Federal agents have surrounded 3 of our properties." Another. "Our offshore accounts are frozen." Another. "Half our investors are disappearing." Han Seo-yan's calm expression finally cracked. No. The empire she'd spent decades protecting wasn't collapsing because of guns. It was collapsing because the truth had finally become public. Outside, the sound of helicopters filled the sky. Not news helicopters, law enforcement. Federal vehicles surrounded Kong headquarters from every direction. Agents stormed the building. The Phoenix Society's mercenaries quickly realized they were hopelessly outnumbered. Many surrendered without firing a single shot. Others fled. Han Seo-yan quietly looked out the window. She smiled sadly. So, this is how it ends. She calmly placed her pistol on the conference table. When federal agents entered moments later, she raised both hands, without resistance, without another word. As the hostages were escorted safely outside, the elderly members of the Kong Council stopped in front of Tae-yun. The oldest among them bowed deeply. "For years, we confused power with fear." He looked toward Brandy. "We won't make that mistake again." Another elder stepped forward. "The alliance with the Carter family is officially dissolved." Vanessa smiled with visible relief. "There doesn't have to be another war." "There won't be." The elder nodded. "From today forward, no marriage within this family will ever again be arranged for political gain." 1 year later, Austin looked brighter than it had ever before. The former Kong Syndicate headquarters had become the international headquarters of Kong Global Foundation, investing in education, small businesses, and community development. The criminal empire no longer existed. In its place, a legitimate global company had been built. Inside the beautifully restored bakery, customers filled every table. Children laughed over cupcakes. Fresh bread filled the air with warmth. Brandy stood behind the counter exactly where she loved being most. Only one thing had changed. She was no longer standing there alone. Tae-yun walked out of the kitchen carrying 2 trays of pastries. Several customers smiled. One little boy whispered loudly, "Mom, isn't that the billionaire?" His mother laughed. "I think he's the baker today." Tae-yun smiled. "I've been promoted." Brandy laughed. "Only because you finally learned not to burn the croissants." He leaned closer. "I'm still learning." "So am I." That afternoon, they closed the bakery early. Together, they walked along the shores of Lady Bird Lake as the sun painted the Austin skyline in shades of gold. Tae-yun reached into his jacket. Brandy smiled nervously. "If that's another ring," he laughed. "It isn't." He opened a small velvet box. Inside rested the antique jade hairpin Vanessa had once placed in Brandy's hands. "I think someone wanted you to have this long before either of us understood why." Brandy gently lifted the hairpin. "I never imagined I'd wear it." "I don't think so." She looked into his eyes. "I want to." He carefully placed it in her hair. She smiled through happy tears. "No more lies?" He shook his head. "No more fear." "No more choosing duty over love?" "Never again." She slipped her hand into his. "This time, we choose each other." He kissed her gently beneath the golden Texas sunset. not because destiny demanded it, not because powerful families arranged it, not because anyone expected it, but because, after every mistake, every sacrifice, and every impossible choice, they had finally built something that no empire could ever buy: a love founded on truth. Thank you so much for spending your time with this story. If it touched your heart and kept you emotionally invested until the very end, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves heartfelt mafia romance stories. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Tae-yoon deserved Brandy's forgiveness, or should she have made him fight even longer to win her heart? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another unforgettable story.